Welcome to the viewers of Dataquest. Today we have with us Dr. Deepak B. Phatak, Professor Emeritus of IIT Bombay. Welcome, Dr. Phatak.
Namaskar.
Yeah. And for our newer viewers, I'd just like to tell a bit about Dr. Phatak. Till last year, he was chairperson of the IIT Indore Board of Governors. And for many decades, he has been involved with many projects that took India forward, like those related to banking smart cards, POS terminals, the Akash tablet, and even an aircraft maintenance training simulator that helped make projects like the HAL Tejas fighter plane a reality. But we are really happy to have you here because you have been associated with DataQuest. We have been, enriched with your many inputs down the decades. And also it was a great honor for us to, bestow you upon the Lifetime Achievement Award in 2008. So it's great to see after getting the Lifetime Achievement Award, you have decided not to sit back, but you're still active in 2024. That's great.
Thank you for the nice words.
Yeah. So I think I'll start the interview. India has set an ambitious goal of being a tech and economic superpower by 2047. How are we placed when it comes to Gen AI and its widespread applications in various fields?
Very interesting question, because use of AI ML in practically everything that you do has now become a cliche.
Right.
So there is absolutely no doubt that everywhere in the world and likewise in India, there would be a greater focus. And it is so. Development in AI, although of recent origin in India, has been quite rapid. If you take most of the important areas like healthcare, financial systems, etc., company after company is attempting to incorporate AI, ML in many of their decision-making activities and so on. But to me, the most important indicator is the growth of startups in this area. So I'm not sure whether our viewers are aware, but just in last 2 years, the number of AI startups, specifically in the Gen AI area, have so rapidly increased from around 60 plus last year to 260. In fact, in last year, they have received an investment upward of $750 million, I think. And they're all, building on the large language model and so many things. It's actually amazing how, at one point I was worried whether the startup culture in India will take deep roots or not. But that was 25 years ago. Scenario has completely changed now. So if you just look at the Gen AI startups and the work that they are doing, and the eagerness of the Indian companies to extract useful work for them, I think we are on the right path. We, of course, have miles to go, but we have one thing extraordinary, which is matched only by China, a very large pool of talented people. And many of them are inclined into these high-tech activities, not just encouraged by it, but eager to participate. So I'm very sure that in coming years, the Gen AI bucket will actually feed to the entire world, not just to India.
That's very heartening to hear, because I hear a lot of criticism of Gen AI. And you talk of LLMs, I guess we have a population of 1.4 billion. So to train a Desi AI, it'll be.
One needs to be cautious also, though.
Okay.
For example, the widespread use of AI might cause people to neglect or at least overlook the importance of what we call ethical governance. It is extremely important that ordinary people who use the AI models for their daily use because companies impose on them must have the right to find out, so actually, how is AI making those decisions? So this openness and the corresponding ethical governance uh, will have to be built very carefully. This is a problem universally faced by everyone. We need to be also very careful about it.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. We have to be very mindful of the ethics. Now,
Yes.
the second thing is, overall R&D is also a big component to this. What more can be done to catch up with the world in this area, and how can we further augment our industry academia partnerships?
R&D has been a bit of a sore point. If you look at world over, the typical expenditure on R&D is done to a very large extent by the government of the day and also by industries which are very keen on being on the latest forefront of technology, etc. etc. In India, the government expenditure of R&D has increased in the last few years, but is nowhere near what it should be. Just to give you a generic point, government after government I have heard harping on the desire to spend 6% of GDP on education per year. I am 75 years old. All of these 75 years I have heard this again and again and again, and yet no government has done it. Look, on the other hand, at China. The Chinese government expenditure on R&D has grown so extraordinarily. I mean, we talk of AI, for example. In general, on the R&D front, the number of rewards which are available to Chinese researchers. You publish one good paper in one good conference, you get so many ones. You want to attend this conference there or meet this delegation, so much money is available. And this is not done for a few select universities like in India. IITs and NITs are relatively always been getting a fair deal. But still, nowhere near the Chinese investment in R&D. I mean, it's amazing. So I will give you just one example. Among the top AI conferences in the world, the one which is regarded as most important, it has a very low acceptance rate. All top researchers in the world attempt to publish in that conference. The Chinese dominate their presence because very large number of their papers get selected. Now, which means that much larger number must be presented or submitted to the conference. As compared to that, the Indian presence in that conference is hardly 1% of the papers. Now, this gap cannot be bridged unless there is a substantial investment in R&D efforts, and it has to come largely from the government because Indian industry, it is much different today as compared to what it was earlier. Earlier, we either were traders or we were doing manufacturing under license. Developing our own products and developing things and doing things is a more recent phenomenon. But mostly, if you take the space of IT, for example, we have the best design houses in the world, but we all design circuits for the rest of the world. We have the best textile manufacturing, garment manufacturing, but we all manufacture for the top brands of the world. So that's a separate issue altogether. But what I'm saying is the R&D desire in Indian industry has been a recent phenomenon. Surely over the next years and decades, it will match the substantial investments needed. But till then, the government has to take that response. And I have absolutely no hesitation in saying that government after government after government in last 75 years has neglected this. You see, education and healthcare are always futuristic things. You invest today and the nation reaps the benefits after 20 years. But if you keep delaying it, then 20 years also keep getting delayed further. That's the unfortunate part. I'm sure that at least in this beautiful period which we call Amrit Kaal, leading to centenary of our birth of a proud, independent, sovereign nation, we should do something substantial to catch up with it.
Let's hope then it can finally happen. Another component of tech supremacy is having tech products that rule the world. Where India is woefully short. For example, recently Tesla dazzled the world with the Optimus robot and RoboVan. Can we reach this level of innovation by 2047? And if so, how? Because just now in the last answer, you mentioned that we are manufacturing for the world. But what about for ourselves?
Products, as I said, has been a rather low-key phenomena. Even in IT, as you know, we are known all over the world for our great prowess in providing services, not so much as products. But coming to the financial sector with which I am familiar with, you will notice that a substantial portion of banking systems, the products have been developed in India. Whether it was FNS, which was ultimately bought by TCS and spread across the complete State Bank of India infrastructure, or whether it was Infosys Finacle, which started in India but now serves many global banks all across the world. Or take the iFlex product, which again originated in India, although Oracle bought it. Now, I have seen these products. I have seen people developing these products. In fact, I had a very interesting conversation with Nandan once. I said, Infosys is a services company. So how do you manage the Finacle product? Because product people mindset is completely different from the services people mindset. He smiled and said, the simple answer is a complete firewall between two groups. So the product people are nurtured separately, differently, and therefore they have a product mindset. Whereas the larger Infosys body, which continues to specialize in services, works separately. Sorry for digression, but what I mean is that the product business, India has never paid attention to as a major focus. In fact, even take China, for example. Americans say that we have outsourced manufacturing to Chinese. I remember one Chinese very angrily telling me in a conference in US that what nonsense are they talking? We have outsourced the marketing to Americans. So that's the big argument that is going on at the top. But from a product perspective, I believe that over the next 10 to 15 years, you will find products which will actually start moving around, moving across the world, just as a few products in the financial sector have done. I have a lot of hope from this large number of startups which are very serious in this business, have come into existence in last 5 to 10 years. But next 10 to 20 years, I think some of them will do wonderful things for us.
Again, nice to hear about the optimism. Now, can you speak a bit about the Professor Deepak Phatak Tinkerer's Lab? I read about it recently. Do we have enough innovations like this to stimulate the minds of students? Because I found it quite interesting when I read about it.
There is a bunch of our alumni who are extremely keen on spreading this message of doing things by hand. So Bharat Desai is one of them. But in India, there is one person called Dr. Hemant Kanakia, again an IIT Bombay distinguished alumnus, who has taken it to his heart to spread across institutions this concept of makerspace and tinkerer's lab. So he's going on establishing one after another. They have a full-fledged organization. This lab they were setting up in Indore, and they insisted that since I was associated with IIT Indore, they insisted that this lab be named after me. Of course, that matter came to our board, and I steadfastly refused, saying that you cannot do this nonsense when the person with that name is sitting in the chair. I think they waited for me to retire from the board, and they immediately adopted that principle. So it has been an honor. But yes, the basic principle is that students must learn to do things with their own hands. In fact, if according to me, ideally such maker spaces should be there in every institution, but at least in all engineering colleges, we have 4,000 of them. I recall when I was on the board of VJTI, I inquired, and some enthusiastic students took me to a place that was a lab run entirely by students, the maker space. And the teachers were not even aware of its existence, some of them. So this dilemma must be resolved. All teachers must participate. I will give you an example which I saw 20 years ago in a small place called Hubli. There is a college called BVB College run by Dr. Khettar, very dynamic person. Now, when I had gone for some occasion, I think it was a CSI event or something, they had a set of stalls there where innovations done by local colleges, not engineering colleges, local colleges in that area of Karnataka. And when I saw that, it was mind-blowing. The innovations all pertain to solving problems faced by local people, either in agriculture or this or that. Most of them were ITI or such students. There were science college students who had done some innovation themselves, and they were, showing off the small products which they had built. I believe the spirit is very much there. I believe what we need is people who will sort of build on that spirit and provide such opportunity. So no, we are not happy with having just one Dr. Hemant Kanakia doing this. We want hundreds of them. And there is absolutely no doubt in my mind that the maker space or the tinkerer's lab, where students get an opportunity to use their talent, use their imagination, and work with their hands, this is what will build the next gen. You spoke of products, for the nation. Well, according to me, more such tinkerers lab in the country, more shall be our products 20 years.
This sounds like a great investment for the future if
Yes.
we can do it all over. So it's been nice talking to you. We've covered quite a lot of ground. So maybe I'll end with, one very wide-ranging, broad-based question. You have been an observer of India's tech scene since the 1970s. And as you said, 75 years, your probably understanding goes right till independence. So what are some of the highs and lows you have seen in these 75 years or 50 odd years? And how does that impact the coming few decades?
Very interesting. As regard the tech scene, you are very right. I have been very fortunate in and privileged to have witnessed the entire transition. But to my mind, the major changes started occurring just before and after the economic liberalization that the country went. Till then, there was no urgent need felt by anybody to do any fantastic development. I'm more familiar with the IT sector and in particular with financial sector.
Right.
So the IT revolution, which began with the establishment of great companies like TCS by the grand old man FC Kohli and subsequently. But the tempo picked up when NASSCOM came into existence.
Right.
So my friends Ashank Desai and Harish Mehta,
Right.
when they came together, colluded and built an organization called NASSCOM. In fact, there is a very beautiful book which Harish has written called Maverick Effect.
Right.
And it describes the internals of how the organization was formed. But it was an amazing thing, hardly seen anywhere else in the world, where heavily competing individual companies came together and cooperated.
Yeah.
That was one of the reasons or causes for phenomenal growth in the IT services. Coming back to the financial sector, I was fortunate to have worked with Reserve Bank of India then, and Dr. Rangarajan was one of the revolutionaries. In early 90s, I was a member of a committee called Saraf Committee, and when we recommended IDRBT to be set up and a network to be established, he readily agreed and funded the entire VSAT network, which was a costly network then, to interconnect. Subsequently, when it was operationalized and the cost of expenses and all came, I recall he saying very openly in a meeting of RBI people, saying that RBI is not interested in recovering the investment made in the infrastructure. I just want the network to run on its own. You know how much reduced burden it was for the banks just to pay for the annual revenue expenses. That was the first network, interbank network. Subsequently, he also pioneered bank computerization, core banking, and so on and so forth. And I have seen all those things. We have made very, very rapid progress there since then.
Right.
Consider stock markets. Not many people may recall the great visionary called Dr. Patel, who set up NSE. You know, before that, BSC, which was jokingly called the Brokers Family Exchange or something like that. When he set up NSE, he attempted one very interesting thing. He said, I would like trading to be done on screens, which are connected through VSATs.
Right.
In fact, I still remember my friend Vinit Nair, who used to head HCL then, was called by Dr. Patil and said, can you do this and can you give me a foolproof solution? So HCL Comnet, then they did that. But that was the first attempt in India to democratize trading across the country. And I mean, rest is history. Today, if you see, the Bombay Stock Exchange is also an extremely professional exchange.
Right.
It has happened because Dr. Patil built NSC.
Right.
And together now, if you see the technology prowess that both our exchanges display, is absolutely comparable to the best in the world.
Right.
So there have been such innovations and there have been extraordinary efforts both by financial organizations and the corresponding IT company. But in my opinion, the best is what has happened in the last 2 decades, starting with a great revolution of the larger scale, and that we call Aadhaar now. That's the first public ID system at that scale implemented anywhere. But more important than that, NPCI built the unified payment interface and made it available to everyone in the country. You can now see how many applications have come up. You can now see the enormous increase in the digital transactions that this country is able to do.
Right.
You know, a rickshawala in Bangalore city accepts payment through QR code.
Yeah.
And yet we have one of the most robust and safe digital payment system because the two-factor authentication for any large transaction. Now, this revolution has been caused because the desire of the concerned organizations and the entire financial sector to build what is generally called digital public infrastructure.
Right.
And it is now taking form of digital public goods. In fact, you spoke about products ruling the world. I'm not so much speaking about the world, but I'm telling you that I have seen greater desire, at least of the neighboring countries, to accept the UPI-based systems for good transactions.
Yeah.
Singapore is already a party to it. Nepal is doing it. There are so many countries. And slowly, as the prime position of dollar goes down just as pound went down once, there is still today no other alternative.
Right.
Yuan, ruble and rupee are still independent. But a very good and robust international settlement system of payments can be built on top of such digital public goods and digital public infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I think that is one idea, and that is one basic stack that is built in India, but can be and will be used by rest of the world sooner rather than later.
Right. That I agree. So I think this UPI is a great story to end with, because that really is, I mean, I'm shocked, like half the digital payments are with UPI and half is by 200 countries. Can't think of this much
Yes.
domination
No,
by
no,
any
no.
country.
I'm privileged to sit as a permanent observer in the Payment System Board of Reserve Bank of India.
Oh, okay.
And in every meeting, the statistics is unveiled.
Yeah.
While the annual reports reflect what has happened in the past,
Right.
I'm privileged to see what is happening every quarter.
Yeah.
And I can just tell you that the growth continues to be phenomenal.
Wow.
Continues to be phenomenal.
Yeah. And I mean, like UPI is already seeing 1.4 billion. Technically, it can take care of 8 billion people on Earth.
Yes.
That is,
yes.
in terms of scaling up. Finally, we have some.
You are absolutely right. You're absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, I think that's a very positive note to end on, Dr. Phatak. And it's been great talking to you, because I found a lot of optimism and a lot of, ways in which India can reach that goal with 2047. So it's very heartening when experts such as you tell me this, yes, India can do it and this is how we can do it. That's very exciting for us.
Thank you so much, Sunil. Actually, yes, I've been accused of being a die-hard optimist, but optimism is far better than any other thing I have said.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, I mean, I have been India focused all my life.
Right.
I used to get very desperate in my earlier years, not finding adequate progress, although there were extraordinarily capable people and talent everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But scenes has changed completely, and today I am so hopeful. In fact, I'm only 75 years old. Yeah. So hopefully I should be around for another 25 years to witness firsthand and enjoy and rejoice on the great progress that we shall make on all these directions.
Yeah, I know. And I think after some time we should sit together and also see what progress India have made. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much.